Nicholas French is one of the most sought after and respected artists in the industry today. Not only is he a top-rated platform artist, he is a salon owner, an educator, and an expert at his craft. Nicholas comes from a world-famous British hairdressing family. He has owned several salons in England and now travels the globe educating beauty professionals and working on high-profile photo shoots and videos. Nicholas was recently named the #1 platform artist in America by the Beauty Maker Awards. He is truly one of the greats in this amazing industry. We're thrilled that he's taken some time out of his busy schedule here at the International Beauty Show in New York City because he's got a great story to tell. Nicholas, I'm really honored that you came to be a part of our show today. This is a really big honor for me personally. You're one of the industry greats.
Oh, thanks. It's nice of you to say that. I didn't realize I was there.
No, yes, you are, and you indeed really are. And here we are at the International Beauty Show in New York. It's a big show. There's a lot of people here, and it's really cool that you took time out of your busy schedule. You're part of a family dynasty. I am too. I'm third generation in this business, and you're second generation in this business. But your dad was a very famous stylist in England. I mean, he was a friend of Vidal Sassoon's.
Yeah.
As you said, he lived right across from Sassoon's salon. He's even mentioned in Vidal's new book, which I think is an amazing thing. But your dad and your mom were both in it.
And you have to understand, I worked at Sassoon's in the 60s, just for a brief time, like a couple of years or something, and what they were doing was very groundbreaking, you know, because everything was uniformity before in the 40s and the 50s, you know, in the 30s.
Vidal broke that, didn't
Everybody looked exactly the same, and what Dad was doing was he only used one implement on the hair, and that was a brush. So he brushed it through because he helped Denman Dean sort of create the Denman brush.
Right.
And he had it, and that's what he used to use, just a brush, no combs, nothing. So when they came out of the dry, it flowed like the clothes, which had never been seen before. Everything was very structured before. Nothing was very, very loose, and he wanted to loosen up hair. And then Vidal, in his own way, who was much younger than my dad, took it to the next level. And if you saw Vidal's early work, it's very similar to what my dad did. It was all sets, but soft on the edges, you know? And then he went into this sort of geometric phase.
And very blunt.
And very blunt cuts, which actually women didn't like to start with.
Right.
But cleverly he devised, a technique of cutting hair, which he mainly got from Raymond, which is another British hairdresser.
Absolutely.
Who used to use tiny little shears. And Vidal used tiny little shears to start with. So, and that sort of developed up. And a lot of women didn't really like it to start with. They'd never seen their hair flat. You know, they'd never seen their hair cut in a natural way.
Right.
It was always set, and then they came back and they had hair pieces at the weekend on. And,
that's true.
You know, that's where my interest came. I started in a wig room, you know, because you see nobody, you just have a name and a diagram. Please set the hair like this for the weekend. You know?
That's, you know, what I think is interesting is, and I hope our students are seeing this and realizing just how important the history of cosmetology is, and where people that were groundbreaking artists like Vidal Sassoon, how he changed things and how he influenced people like you, and also how he influenced people like Nick Arrojo. Nick Arrojo was a Vidal Sassoon artist, Stephen Moody. Some of the great names today, like yourself, all had some influence from that. And I think it's pretty cool. I really do.
And I think that as students getting into the industry, you know, you have to really understand that, you know, it's not a blank canvas you're working with, you know, you're working with people.
Right.
It's like when I was in a foreign country not so long ago, and I think this is an important story, I did this huge show for 6,000 people. And I've been up since 3 a.m. in the morning. I was sitting being interviewed at 8 a.m. at night, 8 p.m. at night. Oh my God. And I had to have an interpreter because it's in Asia. And the interviewer said to me, and I had nice interviews before, why do you think somebody of your age can teach our young people how to cut hair? So I said, you know, because I'm trained very highly, I said, thank you for your question. That's a great question, not knowing what to answer. And I looked out the window and I saw this Calvin Klein poster, and I thought, I said, can I ask you a question? And I said, yeah, okay. And I said, how old is Calvin Klein? He's 64. How old is Giorgio Armani? He's 82. How old is Ralph Lauren? He's 66. How old is Karl Lagerfeld from Chanel with the white hair and the ponytail? Nobody will ever know. How old is Valentino? He's 75 years old. Do you think they had any influence on young people? Then I said, this is the important bit. And I was on a roll, and I thought, I hope something better comes out of my mouth. And I said, what's the difference between a professional hairdresser and a couturier dress designer? Oh, we don't know. I said, I'll tell you what the difference is. The couturier dress designer can buy their fabric, and they can cut it and style it. The fabric we have to create sits in a chair, has a personality, and you have to understand the inside of the head, because you never get the outside right. And we have to create our own textures out of their physical being of their hair. And that's the difference.
That's an amazing story.
And that's how important, you know, with a pair of shears and a comb, you can make people happy, you can get people married, you can get people divorced. I mean, you're a very powerful person.
Right.
But, you know, never take anything lightly, because you really, you know, you can make a difference in people's lives.
It's huge.
In this terrible world we live in now, I mean, if you make somebody happy just for a second, or a week, or a month, you know, and take them to a different place, out of all this gloom and despair, you know, with the talent you have in your hands, you know, and translating your personality, and whatever you're doing, it's got to be to the person. Like my father used to say, if you understand the inside of the head, you'll get the outside right. And it's not how much hair you cut, it's what you leave and where you leave it that's important.
That's a good
It's all
way to
about
look at it,
balance,
too.
proportion and shape. It's about, also, it's not putting the right hat on the right person. Because, you know, I say to audiences sometimes, you know, you ever done the best haircut and colour you've done in your life? You never see that client again? Because that's what you did. You put the wrong hat on the wrong person.
Right.
It didn't suit their personalities and whatever. So,
And you didn't make them feel better. In other words, you didn't make them feel really special.
no, and you've got to get a temperature reading of where they sit with everything, where they are. Just, you know,
Lifestyle.
Yeah, lifestyle especially, and who they are, you know, and it's like a fashion wheel. You know, you see at the top of the fashion wheel, you see classical, you see at the bottom edgy, and then you see on the side there street savvy, and you see on the other side, you know, sort of neoclassical. Well, some people say, oh, I want something really cool and modern and fresh. And you think, hang on a minute, who is this woman? You're trying to check the shoes out and trying to check out the labels in the back of the, you know what I mean? To find out who they are, you know?
I heard somebody else describe it as when Versace does a dress, the woman looks magnificent when she's in the dress, but at some point tomorrow she's going to wear something different.
Right.
And your style, the art that you do, is not only worn today with the
Yeah,
Versace,
exactly.
but it's also tonight at home in bed, and it's also tomorrow morning when they go to work.
Yeah.
So have you ever had challenges that have made you wonder, that have made you wonder whether you're going to keep going in this business? Have you ever had those kind of challenges?
I think it happens like sort of like a lot of the time. So many times you feel like, you know, I should just throw the shears in or throw the brush in and just walk away from the whole business. But it's very, very difficult. And I think you have to have a real positive attitude.
Well, what makes you change your mind? I mean,
Oh, my
when
goodness,
that happens, what gets you through that?
I think the art of what I do, because I love doing what I do, you know, and now I'm in a wonderful position where I can almost do what I want to do, you know. I can create what I want to create. It's not somebody saying, oh, you have to do it this way or that way.
Right.
So I'm really seeking different ways of doing hair, different sort of ways of creating art in hair. And so I'm very privileged to be able to do that.
Wow.
But what the good thing about that is it pushes the envelope, because you have to come up with something really fresh and every year and new, you know, and that's it really makes you think, and you've got to get inspiration from anywhere you can find it. And then it's practice, practice, practice. Even I've been hairdressing 46 years, and I'm still practicing before I go onto a stage, because it's important that the knowledge I share can be correctly transferred to the audience. It's a responsibility. And even as a student, you have a responsibility to really practice and do the best you possibly can. You know, I mean, not to try our very, very, very best is really to sacrifice our industry, you know?
It is.
Our craft. It's a craft, you know. That's what they've got to understand, students.
But it's also to
And some do,
sacrifice
they get
yourself, though,
disheartened,
isn't
you know?
it? It also sacrifices you. If you don't give your best, and if you don't put all of your creativity into it, and all of your blood, sweat, and tears,
That's right, yeah.
am I right? It doesn't pay off for you. What I think is amazing, and you talked about your age before, and I don't see you as somebody that's been in the business for 40 years. I see you as a person who reinvents himself all the time. I think the truly great stylists in our industry, am I right?
Yeah.
Reinvent themselves constantly. I mean, because if you do what you did 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 40 years ago, you're dead. Am I right? You must be better.
You've got to be progressive, I think, you know, not for the sake of it. You just have to take your own speed and you know, and have a temperature reading what's going on in fashion and everything else and feel it. I learn something new every day. Sometimes it's what I shouldn't do ever again. And sometimes wow, that's interesting. You know, even how to make a hairpin disappear, you know, so the hair closes behind it. And I've found that hairdressers today are more interested in that when they come to shows than anything else.
Because the little techniques.
Little techniques, you know, that drive you mad. I think that's important to really share even that knowledge, you know, with your audiences and with your students.
But the truly successful people out there are the ones that thirst for that. Am I right? They need to have that. They want the next level. They want the little bit better. Is it worth it?
Oh, absolutely. Because I mean, when people copy me, I think that's a marvellous compliment, you know. And when I see people doing that, I say, oh, you know, I never could do that, Nick. Now you showed me how to do it. That's fantastic. Because if I've got the idea, and I have to think of new ideas all the time, yeah, and then I've given it to you, you can take it away and use it in the salon or use it in your life, and it can make a huge difference.
You touched on it a couple of times, but could you tell me what do you think our students need to know in order to be successful? I mean, the people who are watching this are people who are in school right now, people who are about to embark on their career.
Right.
What would be your commencement address to those people?
Surround yourself with great people, you know? That's the most important thing I've learned. You know, when I do these huge shows and people say, oh my goodness, how on earth do you do that? I surround myself with just really creative people. And the energy in the room is just electric. You know, you have to be positive all the time. You can't be negative about anything, even though it's all going wrong, you know? And I think that's the main thing. You've got to be a very up person. You know, you've got to walk in and say, hi, you know, whatever, make the client feel comfortable. And also just learn how to analyse who you're dealing with and, you know, and listen to the client, you know, and listen to people. You know, I love to learn different things. Things that, you know, if you feel uncomfortable, you're learning something new.
Right.
I had people come to my classes and they do this braiding. I said, hang on, stop. You've done that for 10 years, haven't you? Said, oh, yeah. I said, why are you here? You've got to do something different, something that you never dreamt you could do. And you're going to feel uncomfortable doing it. You might burst into tears, but I will be there with you, take you through the whole thing. And that's the most important thing. Don't dwell on what you know, but just think about...
Growth comes out of the comfort zone. Am I right?
That's it, yeah.
It gets that much better.
You're going to feel uncomfortable, so don't give up. Don't get disheartened. And also, as my father used to say, and I remember everything he used to say, when I was a young, sort of brash, cocky sort of hairdresser, you know, and he said, Nick, you never look down on anybody in this industry unless you put your hand out and you bring them up to where you are. You know? And I always remember that because I was getting a bit above myself and he had all these salons. I thought I was really cool, and I wasn't. And that's what, you know, and he sent me to a school in Switzerland for 6 months where they didn't speak English. You know, so I had to pick up the language and learn how to do it.
You got perspective.
I was doing finger waves there for about 2 weeks, you know, because I didn't understand what I was doing. I was colouring everybody's hair the wrong colour. But, you know, he just put me in perspective about what I should be doing.
So humility is a big part of this whole thing, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
An ability to see that I can be better if I... But there's somebody out there better than me.
Yeah.
And I'm serious. I truly admire that about you, that you realize that and you go out to try to be better yourself.
And it's like, talking about students, I mean, I was asked, you know, who I work for, what do you think, how do you think they should sort of feel, you know, to help them sort of, you know, help them self-start, you know, I say self-start their creative engines. You have to be able to self-start your creative engine. And I always say to myself, when was the last time I created something new for the first time? Every day I say that. Yeah. You know, that's going to work and help hairdressers, and that's what it's really all about. So you just really think in that sort of ilk, you know, then you'll be able to self-start your creative engine, because a lot of people, including me, some days it's just like a blank screen and I can't think of anything, you know?
But somehow you make yourself do it.
And somehow I come in and watch where the hair grows, the person is, the lifestyle, and it all starts coming together, and then it clicks. But it's all that information.
I'm always going to remember your dad's words, though. I'll never forget that. Yeah. You have to know what's going on inside the head before you can understand what to do with the outside.
And then he walked off and said, good luck.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dad. Appreciate that.
Yeah, that's terrific, you know?
Well,
how do I get there?
I can only tell you one thing. I know he'd be extraordinarily proud of you.
Oh,
and I think that's, and so would your mom, obviously. Yeah. It's an amazing thing.
They were good people.
Nicholas, you're one of our inspirations here at Empire. And I want you to know that I truly am honored by the fact that you be here. Folks, I'm telling you, this is one of the industry greats right here, and I'm awed by you. I really am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for
being here.
Thank you very much
indeed. Yeah, it's a pleasure talking to you.
It's a real pleasure, Nicholas.
Okay, take care.